And we're live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. My name is Jay Angel. And the first thing I'd like to tell you about tonight is the Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoors Show is going to take place January 13th to the 16th of 2022. That's going to be at the Lake County Fairgrounds, guys, and that's in the great city of Grays Lake, Illinois. You know, this is going to be a cool sports show. You're not going to have to pay for parking. It's got a reasonable price to get in. And this brings me to my next guest, Violet Talley. How you doing tonight, Violet?
Good. How are you, Jay?
I'm doing very good. You know, speaking of the sports show, Violet is going to be there. We are going to be talking about that a little bit later. But the first thing I'd like to hear about, Violet, where are you going to be fishing next year?
Well, I mean, still working out the schedule, but I know for sure I'm going to be fishing the chain again. The Mutiny series. They used to do the Geneva and the chain series. Now they're just going to do the chain series next year. So I may do Angler's Choice on Geneva.
Okay.
And then I still may do the Wednesday nights on the chain as well. Also, there's a river series that I might do on the Fox River. So it's a lower river. That's once a month. And I might do one more. I might do NBT if I can find some time to do it. There is also a new series coming. Well, it's not really a series. It's actually one tournament that Bob Masacomer is running.
Oh, nice.
Circuit. So I'm going to be fishing that as well. So that's going to be in August on the chain. It's a 6-day tournament. 150 boat field, hopefully. And so it's going to be something brand new to the chain. So I'm looking forward to that.
Actually, that's going to be brand new because, it's a 150 boat field. Yeah, it's just a 6-day tournament, but you're going to be fishing one day
Correct.
against 30 other boats.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to inundate the Fox chain with 150 boats at a time, just 30 at a time.
Right. 30 at a time. Top 6 of each day, and the top 6 of each day go on to fish Saturday. So it's top 30 teams fish on Saturday, and first place I think is $40,000. So it's
40 grand.
Nice tournament series. So
who are you going to fish that with?
Right now I'm looking at fishing with Jeremy Hukin. So he has been my partner on the Fox chain last year. We're going to be fishing the Fox chain again this year for the Mutiny Championship, and so I told him about that series. He wasn't aware of it. A lot of guys are not aware of that series in this area. Because it's Bob's out of state, so he's done a lot of the out of state tournaments. So we're trying to raise awareness. One of my sponsors, Muskie Tails, they're a tackle shop, and they have a restaurant on the chain. They also own the boat ramp up north on Channel Lake. They actually are going to be the venue for this team fishing circuit. So I'm going to be working with them as well to try to gain awareness and advertising in the area, so we can get our 150 boats for the entire field, so we can have a really nice tournament.
Well, Bob's been on the show and he really got a lot of interest, mostly out of Tennessee, but a lot of people watch him from up there too.
Mm-hmm.
And man, people liked, I think that was the video podcast where I got the most response from. People were asking me questions. I was referring them to Bob,
Mm-hmm.
Geez, that's going to be a fun tournament.
Oh yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. I guess Bob's got a whole setup. He's got a trailer. He's got a big stage. He's got a lot of sponsors, and Muskie Tails is going to be the perfect venue because he's got tons of parking. He's got a restaurant. He's got a tackle shop. He's going to be renovating the boat ramps right now. So he already renovated one of them. So there's plenty of room. There's plenty of areas to go to. And it's just going to be a great place to go fishing.
Wow. Okay. So you fished the Mutiny Trail for years, haven't you?
For a couple of years now. Like I said, they've done the Geneva and the Fox Chain division. This year, they're going to just do the Fox Chain division. But that's good because I've wanted to do the Angler's Choice division. That's actually a national division where you can qualify to go down to their nationals the following year, where they have about 300 boats. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Last year, since I was doing the Mutiny series, I didn't have time to do Angler's Choice. So I'm really looking forward to do it. And Geneva is one of those lakes where I'm starting to figure it out, and I'm starting to get really, really good at fishing on Geneva, thanks to the help of a lot of people that I know who helped me understand it. So it's been fun being in and out of everybody's boat and learning from different people, because you really get a different perspective on how to fish different bodies of water that way.
Geneva's like the opposite of the Fox chain.
Exactly the opposite. Exactly. The chain is my kind of water in the river system. So I'm thinking I like shallow water, structured, a lot of above water structure and stained, right? I can fish that all day long. But when it comes to deep water like Geneva, where you have all your structures underwater and you have to rely on your electronics, I mean, electronics are one of my strong points, but I just didn't know exactly how to use it on that body of water. But also
Wow.
you got patterns and smallmouth and, there's a lot going on there.
Get to know that offshore structure, because then when you go down south, a lot of those guys are bank beaters.
Right. Exactly. And what's funny is Bob Mesacomer told me about that when he fished the chain. He came to, he did a tournament there. He told me a while back. He had never been there before, and he went and fished what everybody else didn't. He went for deep water because he's a deep water fisherman. So he went for all that deep water, and there isn't a ton on the chain, but if you can find that, there's that first ledge, you'd be surprised at how many fish you can get there. Nobody touches that. So a lot of those guys, like you said, they're bank beaters. So I think he ended up winning that tournament.
I think he did too. I know he told me that story as well.
That's a great story.
You got to know how to fish offshore. I grew up fishing offshore in northern Wisconsin, and then when I started fishing Shabana, I'm like, man, there's so much to this lake. And what do you mean there's nothing to this lake? I'm like, okay, you go ahead and think that, and I became the guy.
Right.
Because I understood offshore structure, and going out, like you said, the first drop off, underwater points, yeah, and also that weed line that you can't see.
Right. Brush piles, rock piles. I mean, that's on Geneva, and there's actually another lake I go to, Tishigan, which is up in just north of Geneva, about 30 minutes. Same thing. They have a lake that's about 65 feet deep, and they got rock piles in the middle of that lake, and there are some monster bass and 6-7 pounders that are on there.
There weren't any rock piles. There was only one rock pile in Shabana when I first started fishing it. So I got all the guys together and we made our own.
Oh, really?
we
Is
made
there
our
a
own
roadbed there too?
Yes, there's that. Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I was one of the guys who spearheaded that. Me and Rich McElliott and a bunch of the guys from the Shabana Lake Sportsman's Club. We raised funds and we got the labor and we got out there and we did it. Jim Copcho, you know these people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Jim's been there quite a while. He's really good on the crappie fishing.
Oh yeah. Well, back in the day, him and I did help spearhead a lot of those efforts.
Right.
And if it had to do with more than just crappies, I was all over it because
right.
that was just fun. We helped create what that lake was. Denny Sands, me, him, Rich McElliott. We were always doing something to improve the lake. If you don't like the lake, then you change it. You have to work with the IDNR though. Yeah,
it's a great fishery for muskie plus for bass, but it's one of those fisheries I never understood in the beginning. I had a really hard time figuring out how to bass fish, but I was still in my early stages. I wasn't tournament fishing at the time. I was just learning about all the different, equipment that I had and how to utilize it. But once I figured it out, then it was no problem finding bass. And there's some nice bass in there.
Oh yeah, I've caught them up to 6 pounds in there.
Right.
But also I fished almost every day sometimes all day long, from time it opened to time it closed when I was guiding on the weekends,
Right.
But now you must have a favorite presentation.
I do.
You want to tell us about it?
Actually it's a finesse presentation. What I like to usually use is a smaller jig, 1/4 ounce to 3/8 ounce. And I do a lot of bottom fishing. So I do, even in shallow water, even in deeper water, I like to use that jig, hopping it, dragging it. Most of the time, my number one presentation I like to do, because I'm on pressured water, is I'll take usually 3/8 ounce jig, depending on the vegetation and what's going on, because a 1/4 ounce falls a little bit lighter, depending what they're looking for. But 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce, darker jig, like a brown or black jig, something that has that easy color that they're used to. Especially in dingy water, you could also get away with it in clear water. But I will do a very slow drag and pause presentation, and they cannot resist it. And it's come through for me in the hardest, most pressured times of fishing when everybody else can't get them, because everybody's throwing moving baits or they're throwing a jig and they're hopping it aggressively. I'll do a very, very slow drag. Obviously, you have to, work with, the boat position and the speed of the boat. I mean, obviously, when where really work was on the river, but you have to be careful because you got current, you got wind, you got all kinds of things that are in play. But my favorite presentation is taking a jig and just slow dragging and pausing it to get some of those bass, smallmouth and largemouth alike. They're always on the bottom.
They always are.
Get it, basically.
They always are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you have a rod you can show us that you would use?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite rods to use. Let me not get this out here because I'm ready to take all my reels off and start cleaning them. But one of my favorite rods to use is a Grant Rods Grand Slam, and it's a medium heavy 7 foot. It's kind of like a good all around rod that I can kind of use for, I can put a 1/2 ounce on here. I can put a 3/8 1/4 ounce, but it really works well with a 3/8 or 1/4 ounce. And it's a 7 foot and it's got a faster tip on there. So when you're dragging it slowly, you can feel that some of these fish, when they hit it like a bluegill. And so they're not just grabbing that jig and taking off. They'll suck in that jig and just sit there. And it barely feels like a tap on the line. So the rod with the fast tip really, really helps.
So is that a medium heavy?
Yeah, it's a medium heavy. And with the Grand Slam, the medium heavy isn't as heavy as like the Cuda series, but it's kind of like a good all around. It's kind of like a Grand Slam medium is, to me, what I'm used to, like a medium with a little bit of more backbone. So the Grand Slam medium heavy is a little bit lighter than what I'm used to, as far as to the Cuda series medium heavy, which is a little bit more robust, which I do have a Cuda EXT series here that I use for flipping and pitching. So that gives a little bit more backbone. Still has a sensitive tip on there, but it's not as sensitive. So it allows me to pull them out of some deep vegetation or some banks, grass on the banks and stuff where they're kind of buried. But as far as when it comes to jig fishing, this is my all around favorite. And as you can see, that's what I have tied on there is I have a jig. This is a 1/4 ounce jig with just a chigger craw on it. So that's my number one.
Chigger craw, is that a Yum thing?
It's a Berkeley thing. It's
Berkeley, okay.
Yeah, so it's the chigger craw, and it's a usually 3-inch chigger craw, and they're perfect because the action of the claws on here, it's amazing. It actually, they flap in conjunction with each other just perfectly through the water. So if you swim it, that's also a good presentation. So one of the reasons I use the jig is because you can present it in 4 or 5 different ways easily in all different types of water. So which is nice.
So you're just barely crawling this along the bottom.
Absolutely. And you can use a football head, which is what I have on here. That's more of a football head. One of the other jigs that I use with Sasquatch, I use what they call an arky head, which has a little bit more of an arc to it. I don't know if you could see that, but it has an arc. So it's kind of in between a football and a swim jig. So it can sit on the bottom, or you can swim it like a swim jig through the vegetation. So I like to use what they call the arc heads or the swing heads. There's a couple different names. Every jig company is proprietary, but these guys, they kind of use these as it's like a versatile jig head. So it can do a little bit of everything. But this is one of the lures I use. I'm sponsored by Sasquatch. And what I like about Sasquatch jigs is they have a really nice head. They have mustad hooks. Gamakatsu hooks. I have the other ones with mustad hooks. These are Gamakatsu hooks. They have a wide hook gap, so they have a really, really good hookup ratio. And the best part about it is they actually have hair in their jigs. I don't know if you can see, but there's fine hair in there. So what happens is when it lands on the bottom, it spreads out. Most times silicone skirts will fall, but the hair on here will actually keep it out and flare it out. So it gives a little bit of presentation. So it could be sitting still and the hair will just still keep going, it'll still keep moving.
Wow.
Which can, entice the fish instead of it just falling straight down and falling into the vegetation that's on the bottom. Because there's always something on the bottom if you're not on rock.
So then you use floating soft plastics with that then too.
You can, but you don't necessarily have to.
Really?
Yeah, because the only floating plastics right now that I've been using is like the Z-Man craws. Those have been working really well for me. However, the chigger craws kind of just do it because, especially with the arc heads, when they sit, if you notice, they'll sit straight up. If you can see the way the hook is, it's going straight up at a 45-degree angle. So you can see that it'll actually throw that craw up there. So as you slowly drag it, those claws will come straight up and start to flap a little bit. So you don't really need to do a lot of action to it. So I have a lot of, sometimes they like it hopped, but most of the time I just do a slow crawl. And then what happens is it'll kind of shake a little bit as it's going over the pebbles or the gravel or anything else like that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's quite.
But a lot of guys don't have patience for it because they'll sit there and saying, I can't sit there and just drag this thing for a minute, and just in pressured waters, it works. It works really well.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that. So what kind of structure are you targeting with this slow presentation?
I love rock. I love hard bottom rock boulders. And you get you can get that pretty much anywhere. I mean, on Geneva, not as much, although there are areas where there's some rock and gravel. Obviously, in between a lot of the vegetation in Geneva, you're going to have a lot of sandy gravel areas. You'll see patches where it's bare. And a lot of those fish when you drag your jig through there or on the edges of the weed line, those fish are actually looking for it to come out of the grass and they'll attack it, whether it's going into the grass or just out of the grass. They'll attack it in that bare spot. But on the river, yeah, definitely around boulders, rock piles, eddies, harder structure. Not so much grass, but anything else. Any thick grass or anything like that, I'll usually throw a swim jig. But if I need something that's more of a subtle presentation and heavy grass, I'll throw a suspended wacky worm, like a weightless.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of a rod are you using for your suspended wacky worms?
I'll actually use this same one. I can actually,
No.
yeah. But I do need to talk to Jim. I need to get a couple more Grant rods. But I do have another CUDA. I don't have it here, but I have another CUDA series that I use.
Here's.
Do you have one? Yeah, you have yours. Yeah. Now, do you use a bait caster or is that a spinning rod? So use a spinning rod. Now, I actually have used a bait caster. So,
this is my CUDA EXT.
Yes.
You can see that right there.
Yeah.
And I am so, right there, there's a missile baits.
Mm-hmm. Is that a medium rod?
Yes.
Okay.
This is medium. It's
I
6
think
foot
that's gonna be next on my list.
6 foot
I gotta
6.
talk to them about that.
You see the reserve power right there?
Yeah.
And of course, that's your favorite kind of reel right there.
Absolutely. That Daiwa Tatula?
Yeah. No. No, it's a spinning reel. A Kage.
Oh, Akage. Yes, absolutely. I have yet to get one of those. Those are excellent, excellent reels, especially for the Midwest.
They're also great spinning reels.
Yeah.
I like now in the bait casters, I like the Tatulas.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tatula 103 is my number one favorite. If I could replace every reel with that, I would replace every reel with that one. It does everything. It could skip, it could frog, it could do finesse, it could do cranking. It's an amazing reel.
Just you see for the lighter line that I have that I like to use for wacky rigging, I like something with a better drag, and the spinning reels have great drags.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I've used both. I have, like I said, since I'm such a finesse fisherman, the only reason I kind of use a bait caster is because I have a little bit more leverage. I don't mind spinning reel, but the bait casters are so, and like the Grant rods are so efficient that when you actually cast something that light, it will go a mile. I mean, especially even with the 103, they have a couple other reels, but the 103 will pretty much do anything as long as you put lighter line. And I've used 8 to 10 pounds for a wacky because of the type of fishing we do and where we're at in the areas. Like there's a lot of abrasion. You get heavier in Geneva, so you'll get a 5-6 pounder on there easily under a dock. And you know how the docks are in Geneva, they're going to wrap you around a post, and you better have a little bit stronger line because it ain't going to cut it with 6 pound line or even 8 pound. I got to go a minimum of 10. So that's what I do with my wacky.
Well, I kind of got spoiled guiding Heideke and Shabanaw because most of the bass I caught were on the rock riprap shorelines, and all you had to do is pull those bass right off of those rocks, and you were home free. You could play them for as long as you want. Mm-hmm. Down here, it doesn't work quite as well.
Right.
I lost a giant bass in coontails because I was using 6 pound line and a small hook like I used in Illinois.
It probably cut it right clean, didn't it?
It didn't cut it. It was just all the vibration of it going through the coontails like this.
Yeah.
It got off, and the guy looked at that. He says, "You don't ever use this." So he said, "I wouldn't use a hook that big, that small for crappies."
Oh, really?
That's what he said. I said, okay.
Yeah,
no, I get it, man. He's fished down here all his life, and I haven't. So,
right.
It's just it's kind of cool going to different parts of the country. You'll see that when you get. I know that you're destined to fish some of the bigger tournaments.
Yeah, I'm hoping to. I mean, I want to. Obviously, I don't necessarily need to be the number one best bass fishing guru out there, but what I'd like to do is explore and as much as I can to try to be more versatile of an angler. And I know that different bodies of water out there, I've never experienced. I really need to because it'll help me, with my knowledge. And like I said, it's one step at a time. I'm enjoying the journey, so I'll get there. I'll get there eventually.
Places like Texas and Tennessee, really, really, really cool. Really, there's a lot out there. There's Florida. Now, you're not going to catch as many bass down there, but the ones you're going to catch, you have definitely the potential for a 10 pounder is there.
Right. That would be nice.
I fished in all those places and never caught a 10 pounder. The biggest one I ever caught was in Illinois at the Hennepin Hopper Wetlands Reserve. And that was like 10 miles from my house.
How big was that one?
What?
How big was that one?
Just a hair over 7.
Wow. That's nice.
In Illinois, that's a
giant in Illinois.
It's a giant in Illinois. It's not a giant in Texas or Florida. It's still a great big bass in either of those places. Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama. it's still big. You're going to be at the Northern Illinois Sports Show, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to have a seminar, a couple seminars that I'll be doing, and I'll also be there with a couple of my sponsors, Lake County Water Sports, Grant Rods, obviously. There might be a couple of smaller ones there, but yeah, I'll be walking around the show quite a bit. If I'm not doing the seminar, then I'll be walking around the show and talking to people and spending most of my time at Lake County and the Grant Rods booth because they're literally right next to each other, so it works out really well for me.
That's going to be great. Can you give us a teaser what you're going to be talking about?
Last year I talked about a couple of ones, and one of them was really popular, and I was surprised how popular it was, especially with a lot of up and coming tournament fishermen. But one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is social media and fishing. Social media is really, really, really important in the fishing industry. And a lot of people don't understand how important it is, especially for those that are looking for sponsorships and things like that. So one of the things I was doing is like social media fishing, pretty much how to promote yourself and your business. Because I am a marketing major. I have my own business. So I've done a lot of that myself. It's social media I could do a little bit better on, but who couldn't? You know how it is. You can't post enough on social media, but a lot of people, it's a mystery to them and they're not really technologically inclined. And I am. So I don't mind sharing that information. I remember last year when I did that seminar, the first time I did it was on I think Friday, there weren't a lot of people there, but on Saturday I had a packed room. And everybody was interested, everything from up and coming tournament anglers to businesses that were there. So that's going to be one of my topics. And then the other one's going to be basically Midwest bass fishing tactics, all the tactics that I used in the tournaments in the past year that I've used that have been very successful for me, especially in pressured water. So I'm going to give out some of my secrets. And you know how it is in fishing, there really aren't any secrets. But I would like to show people what I've been doing and how I've been catching them because
there aren't any secrets.
A little different.
There aren't any secrets, but there are a lot of things that some people haven't discovered yet.
Right. Absolutely. So, absolutely. Or they know about it. They just haven't tried it.
Yeah. They've been hearing about this and then they went to the show and Violet talked about it. So now they want to try it.
Yeah. And it's amazing how many people I've had come up to me later, or they'll Facebook me, messenger me or text me and say, hey, I actually had somebody say, I tried this on the Fox River. Like you told me, I think I was talking about Ned rigs. And he says, I went from catching 20% of the time to catching 80% of the time. Thank you so much. So it was really nice to hear that.
Dang, that is nice.
Yeah.
And guys, come on out to the Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoor Show. That's going to be January 13th through the 16th of 2022 at the Lake County Fairgrounds in Grays Lake, Illinois. And you can talk to Violet live there. She's going to be there, even if she's not.
I welcome you. Yeah.
So come on out there. There's going to be all kinds of people. Bob Masacomer is going to be there. Mike Norris is going to be there. I was just talking to Rick Badalini of Yellowbird Fishing today. He's going to be there. Mm-hmm. She makes some great. When I think of Yellowbird, I think of planer boards, but they make some great jerk baits. He sent me a bunch of those, and I can't wait to get out there. In fact, Thursday I'm going red fishing. I'm going to bring those jerk baits to try them out. Going to use my new razor rods. I haven't got my Dio reels yet, but
I have to put it in order too myself. I got to start getting ready for the season. It's, you think January's here and you still got some time, but you really don't. I mean, I was planning on I do maintenance on all my own reels and rods and everything, and I haven't even touched them. So I really need to get into it, and we're already into trade show season. So before I know it, it's going to be open water again. Although we haven't iced up here yet. It's warm, but I have a feeling we'll get a little bit of ice. And if we do, I'll be out there on the ice a little bit. It's interesting ice fishing, but before I know it, it'll be ice out and we'll be on the water again.
Yeah. Geez. Then you're like, I haven't even gotten my reels yet.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Supply chain problems.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just so well. But anyway, so why don't you tell us about your boat?
Well, I'm going to have the same boat back this year because, as you go with the supply, Lumacraft hasn't had a chance to manufacture any new bass boats. So they told me to hang on to it for another year. So I will have my bass boat back, which is awesome because I love that boat. It's an 18 and a half aluminum bass boat. It's got a 115 motor on there. I switched from Evinrude to Mercury. So I'm now with Mercury. So I'm just waiting for my motor to come in right now. It may actually be, and I'm actually going to go visit Lake County Water Sports tomorrow. I like to visit my sponsors when they're locally. Often, they're one. I don't just have a sponsorship with their product. I have sponsorship and the relationship with the actual owners and people who put those companies together. So I'm gonna go visit Mike tomorrow and just see how they're doing. They're getting ready for trade show season, so my boat's in the shop right now. I think they were just converting everything over to all the Mercury wiring and everything. We're just waiting for the motor to come in. So I'm getting a 115 Mercury Pro XS. So I'm really excited about that. So once that motor's on, hopefully it should be at the trade shows with me. So I'll be able to show it off to a couple people, but then I'll be on the water with it as soon as ice is out. Hopefully we don't get any ice, but if we do, as soon as ice is out, I think I'm late March or early April, I'll be on the water.
Well, I have a lot of friends who are engineers and of course, obsessive fishermen like we are, and they love those 115s.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't get enough of them. And these are guys who could afford the 250s and 300s, and no.
And I had a 115 Evinrude, and I still have it. I'm actually selling that one. So I'm selling the 115 Evinrude G2, and it's a wonderful motor. I have no problems with it at all. I wouldn't sell it if I didn't move to Mercury. I would have kept it. It's got that one touch and winterization feature, which is great. You could just winterize it 90 seconds, done. If you want to get back on the water, you just start it up in the water and you're done. So it's really a nice motor, and it's started up every time. It's a phenomenal motor, but I still am really excited to get the new Mercury Pro XS. I've seen a lot of bass boats with those motors on them, and they're just wonderful, phenomenal motors. But I am selling the Evinrude, unfortunately, but that's okay. I mean, I'm really looking forward to my sponsorship with Mercury and the new partnership I have with them. They're a wonderful company, so I'm really looking forward to working with them.
Well, yeah, life goes on, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but it's nice because you get something new. You get to work with some new products, and it's really exciting. So you get to be out there and try all that stuff and be one of the first ones to have it. And so I've never had a Mercury motor, so this will be my first one.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I've had both Mercury and Evinrudes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I liked all of them, actually.
Yeah, they're both great motors. I mean, it's unfortunate Evinrude is no longer going to be manufacturing the gas motors, but like I said, with Lumicraft, their partnership is now with all the other companies. They have a partnership with Mercury, so it's a perfect partnership with having the Lumicraft bass boat and the Mercury motor. So, but I am looking forward to 2023. They're going to be coming out with the new bass boat design. So hopefully be able to get one of those designs. Hopefully they're going to come out with a 20-footer. With a 200 horsepower. That's kind of what the bass tournament guys like better than, I mean, a 115 is great. I mean, I could still get to a good speeding, I'm about 45 to 50 miles an hour in that bass boat, fully loaded with 2 people in it. So that's in a full live well. So that's not bad. But I mean, you really don't need to go faster than that in these local waters. But as I grow, I'm going to probably need something a little bit bigger. But Lumicraft's been amazing with the product they've had and with their customer service. So I've really enjoyed working with them.
I can see where you have, a Lumicrafts. Boy, that's been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them from when I was a boy.
Yeah.
When I was a boy.
And they just came out with those bass boats are only a couple of years old. So, and it's a great design out of a lot of the bass boat designs. It's extremely wide. I've had a lot of people come in my boat and say, geez, we could fit like 6 people up on the front deck, with fishings. And that really comes into play when you really you got a lot of rods or you got a couple people, you're both fishing up at the front. But the best part about it is I can be in like 8 inches of water and trim that motor up, and I can get through some spots that most people can't. So it's really nice.
Wow, 8 inches of water. That's
yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, I'm more worried about the motor than anything. But as far as the boat goes, it's a hardy boat, and it's sleek. It's really slimline, but it cuts through water beautifully. It's a very comfortable ride. But it's like I said, you can get into some little skinny water, I should say. But as long as you got to trim that motor up, especially on the chain, you know how it is.
Oh yeah. I know. I understand shallow water living down here now.
Right.
I didn't used to go into shallow water. I was too afraid. But these guys, they just.
Well, the big fish are, like they say, as long as the water covers it back, it's in there. I mean, I've pulled out some 3 and 4 pounders out of 6 inches of water. Whether they follow it into that 6 inches of water, if they've been sitting there, they're still there. So I don't take any shallow water for granted.
Okay. Well, geez, guys, come on out to the Northern Illinois Sports Show. Mm-hmm. Hear Violet talk. She's going to be doing a couple different seminars. Are you going to be speaking each day, Violet?
I'm still waiting for the actual schedule to come up, but I think I am speaking at least 2 out of the 3 days. I'm not exactly sure which
It's going
days
to be
they have.
4 days.
Is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I might be. I know it's at least 2 days, so they might throw in a couple more or not. I haven't seen the exact schedule. I know that the show is going to be very tackle heavy, so there's going to be a lot of tackle shops in there, which I'm really looking forward to. Because a lot of the shows in the past from other companies, they haven't had as much tackle. Maybe 30-40% of it's tackle, but what's nice is this one's going to be kind of more tackle heavy, and there's going to be a lot more to offer. And then they're going to have the Hall of Fame induction. They're going to have the hog trough. They're going to have a lot of stuff, and there's going to be a lot of great speakers. So
There's going to be a walleye panel. Yeah, Ted Takasaki's going to be there.
Yes, and I'm actually I was talking to one of my new sponsors that I have, who's actually heavy into walleye, and he knows him personally, and he says, if you ever want to do a walleye tournament, I said, well, I've never tried walleye, but I'm willing to. Why not? You never know what you could learn.
I've fished with Ted. He's a good guy to be in the boat with. He's intense, and he never stops thinking. He's just. It was good to see him again because I met him back in 1998, which was, a lot of years ago.
I've never met him, so I'm looking forward to meeting him.
He's a great guy to talk to. Make sure you walk up and talk to him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He's the kind of guy you can just do that to. In fact, that's what I did at Lake Erie in 1998. I walked right up to him, told him I'm an outdoor writer, and he immediately said, "Here's my card. If you ever need a quote or anything for an article, please give me a call. I'd be honored to work with you."
Awesome. That's awesome.
Here I was, a young, in grad school, fresh out of the Air Force, and Ted Takasaki, the guy, he actually won the PWT championship that year. This guy talked to me.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was my first year, as a writer. So I hadn't met all the guys yet. I was meeting Gary Roach and all the other icons and actually fishing with them. What a great time,
Mm-hmm.
So Violet, do you have any shout outs you'd like to do?
Well, obviously Lake County Water Sports and Grant Rods, they've been my two biggest sponsors. They've been wonderful. I mean, especially with the maintenance of the boats with Lake County and them helping me with all the equipment on the boat and helping me to get some of the sponsorships. I mean, they're actually one of my newer sponsors, Power Pole. They're a newer sponsor, so I'm going to have a Power Pole charging station on my boat. So I'm really looking forward to having that installed. And and they've also get me stuff with Lowrance and a couple other companies. So and Mercury also. So it's all through Lake County Water Sports. So I have a lot to thank them for. And of course, Grant Rods. Jim Grant's been a phenomenal sponsor and just a good friend. I mean, he takes care of me, he takes care of all of his people, he takes care of his customers, and he treats his product like every rod is like gold. It's amazing how much craftsmanship is in each rod. I always brag to everybody. I'm very hard on my gear. I don't know if I can show you. I think I have one here. I'll show you this one. But I have a reel right here that you see. It's pretty beat up. It's beat up pretty bad. And a lot of my reels are newer than my Grant rods. And my Grant rods look like they're brand new.
That's a CUDA, yeah.
And this is the CUDA EXT. This is my pitching and flipping rod. As you can see, I have a little beaver on there that's pegged with the weight. But yeah, my equipment really it takes a beating. And a lot of times I'm in the back of somebody's boat, so you got all your rods are bunched together and they're constantly banging and in the waves. And those rods, I mean, I don't know what he uses on them or what he does, but they're really well made. I have yet to break one fishing, and I have yet to have one all scuffed and scratched up. I can't believe it's like they have some magic coating on them where they just don't break. They don't break. They don't get scuffed. Nothing. It's amazing. And, I need to get a couple more rods. I really need to talk to Jim, and I'm like, I need a good handful of rods. I got to put in my order soon, though, or he's going to get busy.
So, yeah, he's really busy right now, just trying to get his inventory up for the sports show season. Yeah, this is his busy season right now. Mm-hmm. And he's working 7 days a week. So
I bet, yeah.
Well, do you have any other shout outs?
Not really. I just want to, one of the things, I'm really, really, and I say this all the time, is I have a lot of people that have supported me, and they all know who they are, and I can't name them all. But if it wasn't for every single one of those people, and I'm talking about every single one, they know who they are, they have helped me get here. If without them, I wouldn't have gotten any of the sponsors behind me, any of the sponsors on my jersey, nothing. I wouldn't be able to get where I am, to be able to fish on the bodies of water that I have. And I mean, I have had some amazing partners who have shared their boat and their knowledge with me. And I'm more than thankful. And like I said, they know who they are. I wish I could name them all, but we wouldn't have enough time. It would probably take an hour. But, and everybody who follows me on social media, just to like, just to follow, just just to friend me. It's huge. It's a big thing, and every single comment I try to answer. If I don't, send me a message. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. It's everybody that surrounds me is that helped me get to where I am. I know I have I put a lot of hard work in it, and I put a ton of hard work in, and I continue to do so every day. But if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have gotten this far. So I'm really looking forward to meeting a lot of people at the shows and just thanking all of them personally. It'll be nice.
It will be nice. And I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and speak to our listeners right here on the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast.
Well, you know what, Jay, I really want to thank you for putting me on here and helping me get the exposure. I mean, it's every little bit counts. And like I said, anytime you want me to come back, I'll be more than happy to help out in any way that I can. And if any of your listeners, they want to contact me, they're more than welcome. They can go to my website. You have it displayed, violetatalley.com. And that has everything on there, my fishing resume, all my social media links, a way to contact me. Please do so. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody and answer any questions anytime.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And in closing, I'd like to tell everybody that, come on out to the Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoors Show. That's going to take place January 13th to the 16th of 2022. That's going to be 4 days of sports shows, guys. Come on out. And Violet's going to be walking around, or she's going to be up on the stage talking. Go ahead and talk to her or talk to any of the other people. They're all there in the name of fishing. So, they're all going to be good people. That's going to be at the Lake County Fairgrounds, which is in Grays Lake, Illinois. Thank you again, Violet. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Jay.